everybody, Bryan Harmsen here from Visaudio Designs with a VDL Demystified bonus levels tutorial video. So I recently finished a show for Indoor Drumline that had a 3-part snare split in it, and somebody on the staff asked me how I went about notating it. So I explained it to him, and I thought it would also make a helpful tutorial video to share with you guys. So here it is. So you can see here, I've got a little, 1-bar ostinato in a snare part that repeats over and over. And this could apply to any instrument, doesn't necessarily have to be a snare drum. It's just what I chose to use here for simplicity purposes. Not to say that playing snare drum is simple by any means. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead. First thing we'll do is actually add some more staves here. So you can either press I in Sibelius or come up here in Sibelius 7 to the add or remove instrument thing in the home tab. So I'll just press I. I prefer to keep it simple. So the first thing I'll do is come over here to staves and score, add a couple of instruments below. So you'll see I've got my A, B, C going on. All right, so that added a couple of extra staves. I'm going to add a little bit of music in here. First thing you'll want to do actually once you add those new staves is give it a play one time so it'll load in all the proper sounds, because let's say this was originally a snare and maybe there's a tenor, bass drum, cymbals, marimbas, etc., below it. If I just started trying to enter music now without playing it first, it wouldn't have the sounds loaded in by default. I have it set to where the sounds don't play until, or don't load until you play. So that being the case, I'll hit play and I'll just let it play one note basically, or two. All right, so now my sounds are all loaded in. Here that I've got my snare sounds on both of those. The first thing I'm actually going to do is bring up my mixer, and I'm going to set it so my second snare line is panned hard right, or hard left, and then hard right. So that way you'll actually be able to hear, especially through headphones, the difference between them. So let's go ahead and add a little music. All right, and I'm actually just going to select this and then hit Command C on my Mac, or you could use Control C to copy, and then Command V or Control V to paste. All right, I'm going to keep it nice and simple here just for the purposes of this tutorial video. There we go. Put a little more right there. And let's also make this forte. Actually, let's make this fortissimo. I'll make this nice and loud. All right, let's see what we got. Or hear what we got. Cool. Here we go. Sounds good. All right, so now we've got that in there. Let's say that that's where that music stops. We probably don't want these two staves, the extra staves, just kind of hanging out for the rest of the piece. So the first thing you'll want to do is, since I want this top staff to always be in there regardless, I will just triple click here so you can see that through the entirety of the piece I've got that staff selected. I'll hold down Shift to go ahead and select both of them, and then you'll want to come up here to Layout in Sibelius 7, or if you're in another version of Sibelius, just look up this feature. We're wanting to hide empty staves. So you'll see when I run this here, there's also a keyboard shortcut as well, as you can see there. It will hide those extra staves down the bottom. See, so now for the rest of the piece, we won't actually see anything for the rest of the piece. Say, for instance, you actually maybe wanted to add more later. This is, kind of an extra sort of bonus idea. If I wanted to actually see all those staves again, I'll go ahead and hit Command A to select everything. You'll go to Show Empty Staves, and I would hit OK there, and it'll actually bring all those back up again. So that way, if you wanted to add more music on your little 3 split later, but that's not the case at this point. However, one thing else I wanted to add is in this particular show where I had this 3-part split, I had 3 staves loaded on which I was using the snare line sound for the full 8-man snare line, but I also had 3 more loaded that were all the solo snare Kevlar loaded. So I'm actually going to add another staff. I'll press I, add to score. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. do another add below. I don't want it right there. See, so you want to make sure it's right in the bottom. I want it at the bottom. So below, so wherever you put that is where it's actually going to pop in. So I'll press OK. We've got one more snare there, and by default now, again, I want to play it, get it loaded. Right now I've just got a snare line, but I actually want this to be a solo snare Kevlar. So I just went ahead and selected the whole staff. We'll come up here to home again, do an instrument change, and snare solo Kevlar. All right, go ahead and press OK. Kind of bump the margin over there, but that's easily fixable. So now I'll do the same thing. I'll go ahead and play. See, right now I've just got still snare line. I'm going to hit P so you don't have to hear the snare racket again. All right, so now my sound is loaded. So you can hear that it's a solo snare. So I want to add a little crescendoing triplet roll right here with a nice ping shot on the end. There we go. So I got a triplet added. Got my diddles. There we go. So let's give this a listen. Cool. All right. So I could do the same process I did a second ago to hide all the staves. Go ahead, back up to layout, hide empty staves. However, I actually want this to be there. I only want to have 3 split staves. I don't want the 4. So I'm going to hit Command Z to back up here, get back to where we were. And I'm actually going to copy this up here. I'm just selecting and holding down Alt or Option and clicking to copy that over. I don't want it to play here. So I'm actually going to bring up my properties panel and turn off the play on pass. There you go. That's not 100% necessary. But because I don't want this to show up, I actually have to hide everything on the staff. I never want this staff to actually show in the score, regardless of whether it has music on it or not. So I'll do a triple click there to get that selected. And then you can either hit Command H, Shift Command H, or come in here to hide or show and choose hide or show. So now everything's grayed out, which means all that stuff is hidden. So now, if I select everything, the bottom 3 lines anyways, and do a hide empty staves, you're going to see that actually disappears. It'll still play, and the score is just not going to show up notated. So let's go ahead and hear our little ditty, and then we'll call it a day. All right, so hopefully you've got a clear idea of how this works. Again, like I said, I mean, let's say you wanted to split marimba part or something, you could actually do the same sort of thing by adding staves and hiding them. So I hope this has been helpful. Hopefully you can find a way to work it into your next pageantry arts percussion show. Happy splitting, everybody, and we'll see you next time.